Welcome to the Galactic Archives, home of any and all information you may want or need. Today I'll be discussing the different types of ARC troopers in the Grand Army of the Republic. Those types include the Null-Class, Alpha-Class, Commander Training Program, ARC Trainees, and Rail-Class ARCs. I'm going to start with the most commonly known, the ARC Trainees. ARC Trainees are the ARC troopers that start out as regs, then promoted and went through extensive training to learn the more intensive skills that ARCs need to know. Examples include Echo 5's Jesse and Rex. They all went through the training given by Alpha 17 once they were introduced to the ARC program. Alpha 17, or Alpha, was the primary tutor after he was released from cryosleep at the Battle of Camino. He and a few other Alpha classes, along with various bounty hunters, taught all of the ARC trainees, which are the ARCs that we see mostly. They also taught the ARC Commander Training Program, but that's a little bit later on. Next is the Null-Class ARCs. They were the first of the ARC troopers, potentially even the first clone troopers as well. Only 12 of them were created, but out of those 12, only 6 of them survived. The only modifications they had were their growth acceleration, and they were highly independent because of this. The Commandos sent them in for execution when they realized how independent they truly were, but Mando, a bounty hunter by the name of Cal Scarata, adopted them and trained them in the way of the Mandalorian. They wore various colors of ARC Trooper armor with various equipment. The only known ARC Sergeant of the group is a Null-Class ARC. His name is Den. He worked highly regularly with clone intelligence. Like I said, he helped with Den helping in clone intelligence. All 6 of the Null-Class ARCs would essentially be private contractors for the GAR under the Scarata name. The Alpha-Class ARCs were the second group of ARCs created. A couple hundred of them were created, but not too many of them saw action. They were kept in cryosleep, and until the Battle of Camino, they were entirely in cryosleep, at which point, during the Battle of Camino, the droids of the Separatists pushed them back far enough that the Alpha classes were deployed all over to hotspots that needed them. Alpha 17 was one of these clones, and the Munilist 10 were a group that was also released at this time, and then would later on go to fight the Battle of Hypori and at Munilist. Yeah, Munilist. They defeated General Grievous, or at least managed to make him run away from a group of Jedi that he almost successfully wiped out. Alpha-Class ARCs had more independence than normal clones just because of the fact that they were ARC troopers and genetically designed to be ARC troopers, but they didn't have as much independence as the Null-Class ARCs because of the way the Kaminoans realized they had to have at least some control. Captain Fordo, who was later promoted to commander, was the leader of the Munilist 10, and he is one of the most notable ARC troopers. Like, if you ask anybody who the most well-known ARC trooper is, they might say Fives or Echo or Rex, but Fordo will pop up quite often as well. Alpha, who started out as a lieutenant and was promoted to captain when he went to take charge of the Commander Training Program and ARC Trainee Program, is the other most well-known of the Alpha class. The point of the Alpha class was to have a trooper that was extremely smart and strong and could literally turn the tide of battle by themselves. They were designed to be one-man armies. Fordo definitely was. All the places where you see Fordo, he takes the near hopeless situation and literally just tears apart the masses of battle droids, almost to the same level that a Jedi would. Fordo was the battlefield captain. Alpha was in charge of the training programs, like I said. The Commander Training Program wasn't quite an ARC program, but they did end up being able to take the ARC the Commander Arc designation technically, with a few stipulations, once they completed it. It was taught by the Alpha Class Arcs. Members include Commander Cody, Commander Bly, Commander Wolf, Commander Rex, Commander Gree, and many more. Commander Rex actually became an Arc trainee as well as being part of the Arc Commander program. So he actually, when he was promoted to Commander in canon, literally was an Arc Commander, but he was just designated as CC instead of CARC, like he could have chosen to be. The Commander training program taught its members higher combat skills, mostly hand-to-hand, and many strategic and battlefield literature, which is mostly to say they were taught a lot of ways to make strategy up on the fly that could defeat the droids more easily, and that allowed for a lot more flexibility in the battles, and the Jedi very much so appreciated this because they were not battlefield commanders. In designation, I'm using Cody's as reference, they were marked as CC-2224, which is Clone Commander, and they could technically choose to be marked as CARC-2224, which stands for Clone Advanced Recon Commando, but they were not ARC commanders. They were commanders that had ARC training and could take the ARC designation, but did not have technical command over the ARC troopers because they were part of the Special Forces/Operations Brigade. The Rail class ARCs are the least well known of the ARC program because they were kept in secret, and this is entirely Legends. They were kept in secret along with the anti-troopers. They were designed to be loyal only to the Kaminoans, not to the Republic, Empire, whatever you want to call it. And they were designed and created towards the end of the Clone Wars. The Rail class ARCs were overrun by RCs and ARC trainees and other of the 501st stormtroopers when the Empire discovered the Kaminoans' treachery. The Rail classes were almost as powerful as the Alpha classes, but they really didn't have enough numbers to defeat the 501st stormtroopers. The last group I'm going to talk about is the Republic Commandos. These guys weren't really ARCs, but they fall under the Special Forces/Operations with the ARCs. Our Republic Commandos were grown in pods of 4 clones. That means that they were very closely linked to the other 3, and the 4 of them together made up a whole, essentially they made up a whole ARC. Individually, they had different skill sets that they practiced. I'm going to use Delta Squad as the example. Boss was obviously the commanding officer, and he led the squad. Fixer was the tech guy and comms guy. Scorch, demolitions. And Sev, poor Sev, was the weapons handler and sniper. They generally had intensive training and better equipment than ARCs and Regs, and they really focused on stealth and sabotage, less so on combat. Though, at the beginning of the Clone Wars, there were 50,000 ARCs, compared to the, 200,000 with a million more well on the way? Regulars. But the Jedi didn't really understand the Republic Commandos, so out of the 50,000 starting Commandos or so, I might be completely wrong about this. Was it only 5,000? I don't remember. But there were less than 10%, I believe, survived the Battle of Geonosis. Delta Squad and Omega Squad are some of the most notable examples. Delta Squad survived except for Sev the whole way to the end of the war, though there are theories that Sev is still alive, and Omega Squad was made up of 4 clones from 4 RCs from separate pods. Both of these squads survived to the end of the Republic after the Battle of Geonosis and went on to help train the recruited stormtroopers, not the clone stormtroopers. So now that we've talked about the ARCs and RCs, The primary difference between canon and Legends is that the Rail class and Anti-Troopers never existed, the Null class didn't exist, and the Alpha class really didn't exist either. The only examples that might have been Alpha classes are Blitz, Havoc, and Colt. They might be the technical Alpha class arcs, the only ones that exist. They really, in terms of training the ARC trainees and the RCs, it was really bounty hunters instead of ARCs, and there really wasn't a combat equivalent for the Alpha class or any of the others. The Bad Batch, which is a specialized commando unit that you should know about, I'm not going to go into detail because it's canon, not Legends. They were similar enough to the RCs in terms of their separation from regs, but they were individual units instead of a pod of 4. They were also just elite genetically modified commandos, designed to be a 4-man army. They weren't really ARC troopers, they weren't Republic commandos, they were just them. That's all I have for information on the ARC troopers and equivalents. Please let me know in your favorite ARC trooper. My personal favorite is Fordo, just because he is just so powerful compared to all of everyone else. Please let me know in the comments what you think will happen in canon with the Bad Batch and the upcoming return in their 3rd season. If you have any corrections or concerns about the Legends information that I presented, please let me know down below. And return any time for another delve into the archives. It's always a pleasure to share our knowledge with you.